Slowly but surely getting to the 200th haul video, and boy, do I have a haul for you guys here today, so stay tuned to find out more. Hey guys, it's Mandak coming at you with another haul video. So welcome into haul video 178. As I mentioned, this is going to be another great haul here for you. It has been a little bit of time since I filmed my last one, but obviously I'm planning to hopefully upload this soon after doing the second one, or the last one I did. But yeah, anyways, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. As you may or may not recognize, I actually did get new glasses, so that might come through on the haul, maybe not. Who cares? Maybe, I don't know. But anyways, yeah, so we have a great haul here for you. I will say just one announcement here. I do plan to go to PhillyCon in a couple weeks here at the time of this recording of this video. So I will hopefully have a haul to show you for that process. Hopefully have some pictures and video maybe related to that day. It's looking like a really fun day with a lot of great friends. So yeah, so I'll be returning to PhillyCon here for the first time in I think 2 years. I think the last time we went was in 2024. So really looking forward to that. It should be a fun time. This is also the reason why I want to do this haul, so that way I got all this stuff kind of cleared out of my little area here, and we'll be good to go there. So anyways, with that being said, let's get into the sections of this video, starting as always with the comics. All right, guys, welcome into the comic book section here for haul video 178. I hope I said that right earlier. But yeah, haul video 178, we're going to get into the comics. But before we get into that, I do want to talk about what I've been reading. So it's been a lot since the last time I filmed the video, just because I have let this haul get pretty big. And because of that, I've been reading a lot of stuff. So we'll go through it here slowly but surely. We'll start kind of in alphabetical order, I guess, and then continue through here. So as I mentioned ad nauseum, at this point, I am continuing my Avengers read-throughs. I'm hopeful that I'll get done with all of my Avengers reading by the Doomsday here in December, but I can never make any guarantees on that stuff. So we'll see how that goes. But as far as books are concerned, I know last haul video I talked about the Avengers by Kurt Busiek and George Perez Omnibus, Volume 1. So I have since read and finished the second volume of Avengers by Kurt Busiek and George Perez. I have some notes here that I'm referring to, so that's why I'm looking down. But yeah, overall, I thought this was a much faster paced volume compared to the first one, and some of that might just be because of the era that this was moving into. This was moving into like the early to mid 2000s, which kind of explains why the pacing got probably a little bit faster, because there's more focus on art, and you know how it is, more modern storytelling from what we kind of see here in 2026. But anyways, there were some really good notable storylines in this. There was a whole storyline with Nefaria that I actually read, I believe, in its entirety in the Thunderbolts omnibus. So I kind of skipped that just because it was already something I read in a prior collection. So that kind of got skipped. This volume also featured the Maximum Security storyline, which actually I actually really enjoyed, kind of tying into like alien races in the Avengers universe, and I thought it flowed very well. It was a very interesting story, in my opinion. So I thought that was a good highlight for this book. You know, there was also a Ultron story Ultron, the Ultron Imperative. So I believe the first omnibus had the Ultron Unlimited. I want to say that was the name of the storyline from there. But in this book, he comes back, and I think this might be the storyline. I don't know if it is in the first or second volume, but this might have been the storyline where Ultron comes back and he actually like kills like everyone in like in like a um country. I want to say it's Slakovia, which, you know, funny reading that, I'm like, oh, that's where they got the word the country of Sokovia from, because they just took the L out and used that name. So I want to say that's what it was called, but yeah, basically, you know, we get this really good moment. Like, I would say the highlight of that story was like Hank Pym kind of like destroying his creation, and he kind of has like a little bit of like a mental breakdown, like cries about it because he's like upset that he created this thing and this thing ended up killing everyone in this country. So I thought that was interesting. I feel like a lot of this book is tied around like Hank and Jan and like their storyline, like similar to what we saw in the first volume with like a lot of stuff tied around Scarlet Witch, because I felt like most of the story was kind of told through her eyes in a lot of ways. This volume kind of changes that a little bit and kind of focuses, at least towards the second half of the book, kind of focuses towards Hank and Jan a lot. And we'll get into it more, you know, as we get through some of these other books that I've read that kind of continues. And then the book closes with the Kang Dynasty storyline, which I thought was much better told compared to Avengers Forever, which is also a Kang storyline. I thought this one was just a lot better, a lot more, a lot tighter in its plot. I did feel like it may have gone on just a tiny bit too much, but I felt like it was really action packed. A lot of great moments in this story, and I thought Kang was a lot better of an adversary in this storyline, and I thought it was a really great way to cap off this era of Avengers with these creators. So I like I said, overall, just my overall thoughts of the run. It's definitely a series I'm going to keep in my collection. I don't intend to sell those books back at any time. I really do think that, like, if you're looking to get into Avengers and you don't want to go all the way back to the 60s, I think that's a really great place to start, because it really does kind of start with a reset. So I think it's a really great jumping on point for anyone who's looking to get into Avengers and doesn't want to start with too new of stuff, but also doesn't want to go all the way back to the 60s. So it's a really great era, I think, of Avengers overall. And I definitely think it got better as it went on. So that's always great to see in a run. Obviously, you know, with it being over 50 plus issues, that makes sense. So so there's that. Continuing on from there, there is like a little bit of a gap between, or no, I'm sorry, I'll get to that here shortly. But so right after Kurt Busiek and George Perez, Jeff Johns wrote the book for about, I don't know, maybe like 25, 30 issues, if that. So I did have the two, like, I don't know what they were. I think they were complete collections, but they were like skinnier trades, but like they weren't the size of an epic, but like not the size of a trade. They were like kind of in the middle. So I read those. You know, Jeff Johns' writing I thought was pretty good. Like I said, a lot of the focus on those books was, you know, Hank and Jan and their relationship. Yeah, I honestly, it's been a little bit of time since I read that, so you know, I'm blanking a little bit on kind of the storylines, but yeah, I think it's just interesting in general to read that, just because Jeff Johns is so well known now for all of his work at DC. And I don't know what his exact title is at DC right now, but I'm sure he's like an executive there. That I don't know if he's editor in chief or not, but I know he's very much like a DC person now. So it's very interesting to read like his Marvel take, and I think he did a pretty good job. Like, I think he got most of the characterizations right. The book flowed very nicely. The storytelling was really good. So you know, obviously, I don't think he's going to write anything for Marvel anytime soon, but you know, we never know. So yeah, those two books were great. I don't intend to keep those just because I could probably read them on Marvel Unlimited. So like, I think I might have mentioned this on my prior hauls, but I fully intend to like sell all of my skinny trades of Avengers stuff back to Second and Charles or to my friends. Um, I think I'm taking this read through as an opportunity to kind of clear house of all the non-essential Avengers material in my collection that like if I ever do want to go back and reread it, I can always reread it digitally on Marvel Unlimited. But physically, I don't think I need to have it. And even if I do want to upgrade, even if I do want to buy it like physical again, there's other formats that are coming out now that are a much better option for um, these collections. So like they're releasing epics now for New Avengers and all these other eras. So I think if I ever do want to buy it physically again, that's what I can do. But I'm just trying to lessen, free up some space in my collection and not try to outgrow it. So there's that. After that, after Jeff Johns' run, there is a little bit of a gap that I can't remember. I don't know if it was Chuck Austin or somebody else wrote a little bit of a gap between Jeff Johns' run and then what I'm going to talk about here next, which is Disassembled. I didn't read that little gap. I just read Avengers Disassembled. And this pretty much sets up the beginning of New Avengers. So basically, we get this storyline where basically everything starts going wrong for the Avengers. Like a Quinjet crashes into the mansion. Jack of Hearts eventually, like that is one thing, like in the Jeff Johns run, like Jack of Hearts, um he has like this issue where like he can't he needs to be in like this room to dissipate his energy, otherwise he'll just blow up. So basically the beginning of Disassembled starts with him showing up to the mansion and then he just blows up the mansion and kills people. um and it turns out like all these things happening, like Tony is at a UN meeting and like he starts calling out like the ambassador of Latveria, and like he's like he says that he feels drunk but he didn't drink anything, and like Hank's like, I'm not buying it, I hate you. And basically it turns out that like all this stuff started because Wanda, like Scarlet Witch, she basically went ape like crazy, like she like lost her mind and basically started all these crazy things from happening. Like with her hex power, she was basically making all the worst things happen with all the different Avengers. So the book basically ends with um, the unified decision from everybody that it's best just to disband the team, rather than trying to put it back together and have to deal with the backlash from the UN, the government, like the media, the community. So yeah, I mean it's pretty sad, and obviously the end of the, like, I guess volume 1 numbering system, at least for Avengers, at least for that time. um but it's funny because like I feel like this is kind of just like the precursor of like what's to come with the Avengers, because obviously we get Civil War shortly after this, and I think House of M follows after um, Civil War, and obviously in House of M that's when Scarlet Witch says no more mutants, and that whole thing happens. So like I feel like this was kind of like the beginning and like the preview of that whole process with Scarlet Witch, and I don't know if it's overused, but I do feel like Scarlet Witch is like Scarlet Witch going crazy, or like just the general trope of like a hero losing their mind and going crazy and having this alter ego where like they basically destroy everything, feels, at least to me, like having read a lot of books now at this point, like feels a little overused. Like we saw it a lot with Dark Phoenix and X-Men. We even saw it with Storm for a little bit after that, for like one or two issues. We saw it in the West Coast Avengers, where Scarlet Witch also goes crazy in that, and like basically like that's how she loses all the, like she realizes that her kids were just like this apparition that she had. She never actually had her kids with Vision. So like that's also kind of like the crux of why this happens, is she realizes that, like, that she doesn't have a memory of that, and that's what kind of drives her to go insane. So From that standpoint, I think it's cool because it kind of ties it back to the original reason for why she went nuts in the first place. Um, but yeah, I think that's great. So now I'm currently reading the new Avengers stuff. So I'm really excited to see how that, now that I know where it came from, it feels more satisfying to read that run now, and understand kind of what's going on. So that's where I'm at right now. The last book I read for Avengers kind of just pulled it off the shelf because I was traveling for work, so I wanted to bring something that I think that was when I was still reading the Avengers Busiek Omnibus, and I didn't want to bring that on the plane, obviously. So I brought the Quicksilver collection. So this is like the 12 issue or 11 issue series, or I think it's 13 issues series that was running congruently with the beginning of the Kurt Busiek and George Perez Avengers run, because it actually has the whole Live, Free, or Die storyline in there as well. So I think that's like the third or fourth book in my collection that has that storyline in it. So, so yeah, I'll say I skipped that. But a lot of this is there's a lot of stuff within humans, but also it's a lot of things where um, Pietro is actually coming to terms with a lot of his decisions that he's made over the years, especially with Crystal and his daughter Luna. So I thought that was really good. I was actually pleasantly surprised by how well that read was. It was a page turner, but it was also there were some really good issues in that first half of the book where we get to the Inhumans part, and obviously, Crystal is one of the Inhumans, so her I guess brother-in-law or whatever, Black Bolt, there's some great moments where Pietro gets manipulated by Black Bolt's brother, which I think it's Maximus, I want to say. But yeah, that was a really great storyline. I thought the art was really great. I don't know who the artist is exactly, but I thought it was great, and I won't be keeping that one in my collection either. I'll probably be selling that one too. But it's definitely a series that if you know if someone out there who's really loves Quicksilver, I don't know if he's anyone's crazy favorite superhero, because he's kind of an ass for most of his history actually. Um, this is a great pickup to find in a store, or if you want to look it up on Marvel Unlimited. It's like the 1999 series or something like that, I think. So, yeah, really surprised by that one. Really would recommend that. All right. We'll move alphabetically through here, so I'll be jumping around a little bit, but next little chunk of books I wanted to talk about very generally, just because there's so many volumes of it. And I know I talked about the first volume generally in the last haul. I have since finished and read all of the Pokemon Adventures books from Leaf Green and Emerald. So that would be volumes 24 through 29. And I think I might have mentioned on my last haul, but the first couple volumes follow the existing characters we had, so like blue, red, green, yellow, gold, silver, crystal. So we kind of follow their standpoint. They do a lot of stuff on the Sevi Islands, which I thought was really neat, because that's obviously part of the post game in Leaf Green and Fire Red. So I thought that was cool to see some of those settings in the manga. I thought that was really cool. But a lot of it's based around these extra moves that the Pokemon learn, that the starters learn. And I remember there is actually a tutor on one of the islands that actually does that in the game. So I thought that was pretty neat. But yeah, the first couple volumes of this collection of volumes here focus on Giovanni. He comes back and he actually uses Deoxys to find his son, who is Silver. So that was an interesting storyline. And basically the end of that three-parter volume ends with all of them being turned to stone. And they basically sit in stone for 3 or 4 volumes, because then the rest of the volumes are about a character named Emerald, who we're introduced to for the first time. And I think it's a he. I don't know if I think it's a he and not a she. I probably should have verified that before I got on this haul. But anyway, um, he is like a shorter kid, so like he got picked on a lot, and he actually creates these like extendable arms and legs to like look taller. And not gonna lie, it kind of reminded me of like the one episode of SpongeBob where SpongeBob goes to prom with Puff, and he like, or not I or Pearl, sorry, Pearl, not Puff, Mrs. Puff, Pearl. He goes to prom with Pearl, and I think he like gets like he like makes him like he gives himself like larger arm like larger legs so that he can be taller than her. So I was thinking about that the whole time when I was reading this, but um no, it was good. Like a lot of it was obviously Battle Frontier focused, just because that was like the key feature in the Emeralds game was the Battle Frontier. That was kind of the post game for that. So we kind of just, I don't know. For me, it kind of just felt like, oh, here's a promo for all these different modes you can play at the game. So that one felt like was kind of weird, but it did eventually tie back with everything from the first part where Jirachi basically comes down and uses its wish powers to basically bring all of the existing characters back to life and turn them like get them away from being stone. um there's this villain that wears like this suit of armor. I forget what they called him, but it ends up being Archie, I believe, the Team Aqua like villain. Like he's like dressed in this suit of armor. So I thought that was kind of weird, but um, yeah, my overall thoughts on this. I still have one more box set to read that I own. I have the Diamond and Pearl stuff. Um, I don't know. I really like the first three volumes with like the existing characters, but the Emerald stuff, like I said, it kind of just pulled me out of it a lot, just because it just felt like it went on and it was just I didn't really see where the whole series was going as a whole with that until like the last volume, and I was like, oh, okay, now I see where this. And it's annoying because they kept teasing like the fact that this was going to happen, because like they kept showing like at the ends of other volumes that like, oh, these characters are still in stone, and I'm like, okay, well, why don't you do something about it instead of just showing us like for 3 volumes. um but anyways, like I said, I thought that was all right, not the best material from Pokemon Adventures that I've read. I still think the first 2 box sets worth of stuff, like the red and blue and then the gold and silver stuff, chef's kiss. That stuff is really good, really, really tight plot, and yeah, just really inverts like your whole ideas about like certain characters from the game and in the book. So, anyways, that was that. Let's see here. Next one here, I read. So I think I mentioned this on my last haul, but I did read the last like collected thing of Spider-Man that I had in my collection, which was Spider-Man Fake Red. I don't know the writer or artist, but basically the storyline is about this like this boy who um basically finds the suit of Spider-Man and basically pretends to be Spider-Man the whole time. And then the actual Spider-Man helps team up with him to take down the villain. I can't remember who the villain is, but yeah, I thought this manga was okay. It definitely read fast, and there's some good moments. Like, the main character, he's like trying to impress this girl that he knows at school. And like, even when she finds out that he's not the real Spider-Man, like she still supports him, which I think is kind of cool. So yeah, if you can find it for a decent price, I think it's worth a read if you're a Spider-Man fan. I just thought, I was more just interested in the novelty of reading a manga like based around Spider-Man. So, and it is standalone. Like it's not like a part of a series. It's just one volume. It's like pretty chunky. I would say it's probably about the size of like 2 like regular volumes of manga. So like probably around 400 pages, I would say. But yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting, so worth a read if you're into that. Next chunk of books here is a bunch of Star Wars epics that I've been reading. So, yeah, clearly not gonna get to all of my Star Wars material before Mandalorian and Grogu comes out. Actually, at the time of this recording, it's already out in theaters, so obviously I didn't get to read everything before the movie, which is fine. I'll still be able to get that done by the end of this year, but some of the epics I read here with those, I read, so starting chronologically and kind of moving down. I read the Menace Revealed Volume 4 epic. So this was the only one I could find. All the other ones are out of print already, and I didn't really care to read the rest of those. This one I was actually interested in because it actually had the Attack of the Clones tie-in adaptation comic series. So I read that. That was in this book. There was a storyline with Aura Singh that I thought was kind of interesting. There was also this like um, little series, or I don't, it might have just been one issue, where Anakin and Obi-Wan go to protect the senator, and then like one of the like Obi-Wan steals like Anakin's lightsaber, and he's like, "Oh, I was just testing you. You know, you should never leave your weapon." Like, so kind of just alluding to some of the stuff that he tells him in Attack of the Clones when he loses his lightsaber during the chase with Zam Wesell. So I thought that was kind of interesting, but um yeah, overall, like there were some other storylines. Like I just like with a lot of these Star Wars epics, like I get it, right? They want to try to introduce new characters that aren't like part of the Skywalker saga, but it gets pretty hard for me sometimes to like get into those types of storylines, especially now considering that all this stuff is considered legends and it's not canon anymore. Um, but yeah, some of those other storylines were a little hard and to like enjoy, and they were kind of a little forgettable in my opinion. But yeah, so that there was that book. The next epic I read was the volume 1 of the Star Wars Empire epic collections. So this one had a lot of Order 66 stuff, which I really enjoyed reading. I thought that was really cool to see that. A lot of very Vader heavy for this first epic. You know, his obsession with finding the Jedi is very prevalent here. Like there's an early storyline where like he gets pulled into this trap by other Jedi, and he nearly gets killed trying to do it, and then the Emperor's like, yeah, you need to stop with that. Like we need to build this empire. We can't have you going off and trying to hunt down these Jedi. Like they're extinct. Just let it go. um, so another thing too that we kind of get in this book, this first volume, is the introduction of a Jedi called Das Janir. So he's like an older man, and like I wouldn't say older, but like he is slightly older. And I will say like the storyline's good. Like it flows to the other volumes, which I'll get into. But yeah, like this storyline, this first like appearance of him kind of has him struggling with the idea of like leading the Jedi Order and like changing the ways that he needs to approach things because of like the way that stuff has happened because of Order 66. So I thought that was kind of an interesting dynamic there. So that was volume 1. Volume 2 is basically a lot more of this character, Das Janir. Again, we get some Vader stuff sprinkled in. I think this is the one. This might be the epic where we like get the storyline where Vader kind of sees a ghost and like has a lot of flashbacks to when he was a Jedi and when he was Anakin. So I thought that was interesting. We get a whole storyline where he kind of this Jedi kind of helps overthrow like this like crime cartel at this one planet. So, there's that. The third volume of Star Wars The Empire Epic Collection has I think the main storyline that I liked in that one was like this plot with Das Janir and like some of the other characters that we see in this series. They all kind of team up to basically try to entrap Darth Vader. And as you can imagine, it doesn't go well. I'm pretty sure they escape, but yeah, just barely. But again, that's kind of a theme in these stories is like Vader's obsession with finding the Jedi and trying to obviously, the main Jedi he's trying to find is Obi-Wan because he's the one who cut him up on Mustafar, and left him to die pretty much. So I thought that was interesting. The fourth volume was kind of a stinker, in my opinion. We get some Vader stuff at the beginning, but then most of the book is like this Jabba the Hutt like storyline and these Boba issues, which I know it sounds crazy to say because Boba Fett's like one of the most badass Star Wars characters of all time, but um, I just could not get into it. I just did not really like it. There was this whole storyline going back to Jabba for a second with Bib Fortuna, who tried to like take him down and tried to like kill him, and that's something that's been well known in like the Star Wars mythos, is that like Bib Fortuna was like trying to kill and like take back like the palace from Jabba. Like he never really liked him that much. Um, so like there's this whole thing that goes down. The whole plot gets like screwed up, and then Bib Fortuna basically has to pretend like he wasn't a part of it, and then that's how he kind of gets it into the position he's at during Return of the Jedi. So I thought that was kind of interesting, but yeah, not a lot of great stuff to write home about with that one. Um, and then lastly here, the last kind of series I started, I know we're already at 30 minutes here, so I'll try to be quick. Um, the next series I started was Supergirl, Volume 1 of Rebirth. So yeah, this was the series that I found at a Second and Charles in Georgia back in December, I think is when I found it. So I just bought that whole series. Read the first volume, had some pretty good storylines. I was again, I'm not a huge Supergirl fan. This is actually the first like material of hers I've actually read. So just trying to understand her mythos was took a little bit of time for me to understand it. Because technically she came to Earth later, but like she's younger than Kal-El, and I'm like, this doesn't, I don't know, something about it doesn't make sense. I'm sure someone can explain it for me in the comments. But yeah, most of this is like, her, like, us getting used to her situation. So she's on Earth. She's learning how to be an Earthling. Like she wasn't like Superman, where she came as a baby. Like she just got to Earth, so she's learning how to do everything. And then we get a fight. Like she fights a cyborg of her dad, I want to say. And that's like kind of the main story in this volume. We also get like a lot of like stuff around her parents, and I can't remember if like, I'm assuming they're like her Earth parents. I don't think they're her actual parents, obviously. But yeah, so that's what that one was. I feel like I didn't really do it justice summarizing it, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see how the rest of this run goes. But anyways, 30 minutes later, that is what I've been reading. So finally, we will get into the haul, so stay tuned for that. All right, so at last, we will get into the haul, I promise. So similar to last time, I have a mix of actual just regular books and comic books for you guys here, so I hope that doesn't offend anyone. I'm sure it won't, but, just wanted to make that a disclaimer. So we'll start here with this nice little box set that I found. So yeah, story time with this. I was in Lancaster with my wife almost a month ago, probably at this point, and I stopped by an Ollie's, and sure enough found this box set that actually had a lot of great books from when I was a kid, and I wanted to grab it, and that was the Goosebumps box set. So picked this up for 20 bucks. Definitely some really great stuff in here. So probably hard to see all of these, but you can see here what these have. So it looks like we have The Scarecrow Walks at Midnight, The Curse of the Mummy's Tomb, The Werewolf of Fever Swamp, Revenge of the Lawn Gnomes, The Haunted Car, The Ghost Next Door, The Blob That Ate Everyone, Let's Get Invisible, Stay Out of the Basement, and Night of the Living Dummy. So yeah, this is very nostalgic for me. Growing up, these were the books I checked out of the library the most frequently, so really cool to see that I can read these all in a collected version like this. Obviously, these have like updated art on them, so there's that. But yeah, might try to sprinkle some of these in here every once in a while. These won't take long to read, but really cool to get this for 20 bucks. There was another set up there that like had books that I wasn't too familiar with, so maybe later down the line I'll see if I can find them. But otherwise, the Libby app that I use, I actually was able to find some of the other books there on there for free. So Not a huge priority thing right now, but really cool to get this. So just for anyone else who's interested, you know, definitely worth checking your ollies. They always get some of this stuff in, and you might get lucky and find this this collection. So 10 books for 20 bucks, you really can't beat that price there. Oop, as I almost drop it. All right. All right, next couple books here I bought. Again, just regular books. This one is Trigger Warning by Neil Gaiman. So got this for $4 at a Books A Million, which pretty cool. This has a bunch of like little funny, like little quirky short stories by Neil Gaiman. So that's kind of why I bought it. I really like his writing, and kind of excited to see what this is all about. So yeah, just a bunch of little short stories, little things to read. First storyline is making a chair. So we'll see what that's all about. But anyways, I think this will be a nice little read to get to at some point. All right, so continuing on here. Picked these next two books up at a Books A Million that I was at in Florida for work. So one night, I actually stayed at this like one place, this one hotel that was right next to like a shopping center. So I just walked over there, killed some time after work one day, and just shopped for some books. And sure enough, found these two books for a decent price, $4 each. And these are some Stephen King novels. So this one is Roadwork, and then this one is Thinner. So this one I do know it got turned into a book, or turned to a movie. So really interesting to pick this up for $4. And then this one looked interesting, kind of read the blurb on the back and decided to give it a shot. So yeah, this is my first foray into Stephen King books. I don't know how far down in the rabbit hole I'm going to go with this, but willing to give it a read at some point. And yeah, we'll go with that. So really cool to get those for a really good price there. All right. These next three books I picked up from a sale that Target is running at the time of this recording. It was like a $10 off purchase of $40 or more on books. So, you know, $10 coupon for that I thought was pretty good. So ended up picking up some Star Wars novels that I wanted to get to kind of finish off my collections here of stuff. The first one is Kenobi. So this one I was really interested in. I think that era of like Obi-Wan Kenobi, like after episode 3 and before episode 4, is a really interesting storyline. A lot of people I've seen online say that this book reads a lot like a Western, which I think is really cool. I'm curious to know if like how much of this stuff was like the inspiration for the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV show, because obviously this is set in Tatooine, so really cool. This also has the nice reprinted, like bigger, like this isn't like a mass market paperback like this one is, so it's a little bit bigger, and this has that nice Legends like banner that goes around it, so, and the nice artwork too. So this is a really nice clean copy. I really like the way these look, and really excited to give this a read. So we'll put that on the shelf there. Next book I got here was to finish my collection of Thrawn books by Timothy Zahn that I wanted to finish here, because my friend talked me into buying the first two when we were at a store. So this is the last book I needed, and this is Thrawn Treason. So this is the last of the books for Thrawn. And then there's 3 other books that are like a prequel to these books here. So this is all set around the Empire, and I believe that the other ones are set during like the Clone Wars. So really cool to get this one. This paperback feels a little bit, this is like a matte finish versus like the other ones I have, which are like a shiny, like a more shiny like cover and stuff. I don't think it's gonna make much of a difference on the shelf, but nonetheless, really good to have all 3 of these, and definitely want to give that a read. You know, I did a long time ago, I listened to the audiobook for for the original Throne trilogy by Timothy Zahn, so I'm really excited to get to that as well. What's great with the Libby app is that there actually is an audiobook for that book too, so if I want to read it a little bit and then listen to it when I run or when I'm driving somewhere, I can always do that to keep up with my reading. So really cool to have that flexibility there, but nonetheless really cool to have that copy to read there. And this last book I got, which was the book that I was probably the most excited about to get, is this is actually not a Legends book either. So the Thrawn Treason book and this book are both canon, and that book is The Master of Evil. So this book got discounted a little bit more on Target.com, and then with the coupon, I think it came out to like $13 for this book, which this book retails for $30. So I think that was a really good steal in hardcover. Yeah, this is a really awesome Vader novel that I'm really excited to get into and read. I think it's going to be a nice treat to read it. You know, obviously I'm slowly but surely getting through Master and Apprentice. I'm about like 120 pages into that book, so I'm about like a third of the way through, I think. So my plan is to hopefully try to get it done before the end of June. Just gotta stick to trying to get a chapter done each night. But nonetheless, really cool to get this, and I'm really excited to read this era of Star Wars novels with Vader. You know, now that I have this, I have Labyrinth of Evil, Revenge of the Sith, and then Dark Lord, which all are like run together as a trilogy, and then I'll read this. So really cool to get this in a nice hardcover for a really good price. Every store I've gone to, they've always been full price, so it's really nice to finally get that in a good cheap price there. All right, so that's all my regular books. So moving into comics and graphic novels. Sticking with the Star Wars theme for a second, I'll try to do that with some of these other books I have. I found this on books. I placed an order with Book Outlet 1, or Book Outlet, I guess. The first book I found here was this this biography about George Lucas called Lucas Wars. So I really thought this was cool. I'm not sure if I'll keep this after I read it, but it's a graphic novel about like George Lucas's life and like, you know, how he came about creating Star Wars. So, yeah, I think this is going to be really cool to read. I don't know a lot of the backstory behind George Lucas's wife, or not, well, yeah, his wife, but his kid. I know he was, I believe in the third book, or in the third movie, I think he was going through a divorce. I think that's when him and his wife filed for divorce. So really interested to see kind of what this graphic novel reveals about that, and kind of what it talks about. So definitely will be reading this. Probably will save this until the end of my Star Wars read through, just so I can wrap it all up with a nice bow regarding the creator. So really cool to get that. That was not something on my radar, but another thing too, really beautiful cover here, like the showing like the Tatooine sunset while he's sitting in the chair. I think that was a really good choice to do that. That really stood out to me when it came to deciding to pick this up. All right, a couple books here I have. Kind of went heavy on the Treasury editions. I don't know why I bought these, but man, they look really great. You know, it's one of those things where, like, obviously, yeah, I could read these on Marvel Unlimited, but these types of books, like, I feel like just being able to hold like a giant size book, like even bigger than an omnibus in terms of the size of the pages, is something that, you know, if I can find a book for a really good price, I'm going to, because these books originally are $30, and I got these each for like, I want to say like $12, which I think was a really good deal for these. So the first one here I found, again, sticking with the Star Wars theme, is Darth Vader Black, White, and Red. So this was a series of, they've made a bunch of these over the years. I actually have the Carnage one, and I actually have another one here that I'll show after this. So yeah, this type of like mini like subline of the Treasury editions I think is really cool. Obviously Darth Vader's I think he is my favorite Star Wars character. So just being able to read it in like this massive format is just going to be such a treat to read. You know, again, if you're a Star Wars fan, and you can find this for a good price online, like I did on Book Outlet, I would highly recommend picking it up. I would definitely not recommend buying this for $30. I think that's a ripoff in my opinion. But if you can find it for like $10 or less, or like around what I got it for, I think it's worth picking up. So really cool to get this in this nice format here. So sticking with that theme, also found this Treasury edition, the Moon Knight, black, white, and red. Black, white, and blood, excuse me. So this I think is going to be such a treat too. You know, just looking at this art, I mean, come on, like that's just amazing, being able to hold like a massive volume like that and enjoying this art. Yeah, this is going to be so fun to read, and I'm really looking forward to it. This was one I really was thinking about reading on Marvel Unlimited, but I'm like, you know what, let me see if I can get this for a decent price. And sure enough, I got this one for $7. So saw it at an Ollie's when I was traveling in Ohio, and I was like, yeah, I'm grabbing that. That's a really easy pickup for me. So really cool to get that one. And then the last Treasury edition one that I got was a story that has been talked about, I remember, in a lot of podcasts I've listened to. And it's The Spectacular Spider-Man Lo This Monster. So this kind of has some very early storylines around the Green Goblin. So obviously, Green Goblin was one of the main villains in the Silver Age of Spider-Man. But this is some kind of unpublished stuff. I don't believe this has been put into any like omnibus or epics. Maybe it has, and I just bought it by accident. But otherwise, I think this is going to be really cool to read. I think I may have read this in like Essentials. I want to say maybe this was in the Essential volume. But I mean, come on, like an Essential volume versus this, I mean, there's no comparison, right? So again, got this one for around $10, which I think was good. So really cool to get that, and yeah, just a really nice treat. This is definitely a nice, like this cover here often gets like used for like you know, when people talk about Green Goblin, Spider-Man, like this is like the cover they use for a lot of that. So that's really cool to see that. But yeah, we'll give this one a read at some point too. So like I said earlier, I'm never done reading Spider-Man apparently. So I'll just keep reading Spider-Man as long as I keep buying it. So there's that. All right. Last collected edition of stuff, I believe. I don't think there's anything else left in here. At least I hope not. Good. Last collected thing I got was something I picked up at a Second Charles a couple weeks ago when I was traveling with my wife. And that is the Normal Man Omnibus by Jim Valentino. So I think I remember seeing this book at another Second Charles a while back, and I just didn't pick it up. But I ended up getting this because it was only $30, and my wife actually was using a coupon for her birthday, so I got she put this with my order and got an additional 25% off of that. So I think this is really cool because a lot of this is like making fun of like classic comic book tropes, and like certain issues and certain covers look exactly like famous covers from comics. So I like this kind of stuff. Also kind of a big Jim Valentino fan because I've read his whole Guardians run. At least 8 years ago now at this point. Wow, that feels like a long time ago. So yeah, I really enjoy him as a creator, and I'm really excited to read this and see what this is about. So, and it's nice to have it in this nice collected edition here. So really cool to pick that up. And that's my haul. Literally half the time as what I've been reading, which is usually on point. But anyways, guys, that's my haul here. So at some point here, I'm going to put all that in my collection and organize it. But for right now, let's go ahead and get into the Lego portion of the video. right, guys, thank you for watching the Lego section here. So, at the time of this recording, this is the Friday before Memorial Day. So, um, haven't really seen a lot of great sales. I think we're getting towards the point here where we're getting towards clearance season for Lego, which is around like June, July. So, I think eventually we'll get some nice, good deals at some point there. But for right now, I did pick up some stuff along the way. I'll kind of explain where I got all these as I go through them. But starting with the thumbnail of this video, did pick up the new Razor Crest poly bag. I got two of these, one to keep sealed and one to open. So probably will end up building this at some point. Again, still haven't seen the movie yet at the time of this recording, but looking forward to watching the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. And yeah, really cool to get a new poly bag for the Razor Crest. I think I have somewhere around here. I want to say I have the other Razor Crest poly bag. I might have put it away in a storage box. But nonetheless, really cool to get that, and we'll get that a build at some point. All right, let's see here. This next set I bought was part of a Legos.com order that I made on May 4th. So I will talk about that here shortly, but this order, I got this because this was 40% off, which for Legos.com, like, you're not going to find a lot of stuff for 40% off for long. So I wanted to grab it, and that is the Halloween pumpkin. So I think this is a really cute seasonal set. I'll probably put it in the basement to store until Halloween. We're still like 5 months away from that at this point. But yeah, really cool. It actually comes with a light brick, which I think is kind of neat, you know, for the pumpkin. So I think that's a nice feature. The ghost is kind of cool. Yeah, and I checked yesterday actually too, and these are still on sale and still available. So if you're looking to get a Halloween set, nice little one to put display around the house during the Halloween season. This one's going, I think I paid like $12 for this. Originally it was on sale for 20, or it was being sold for 20. So but yeah, really cool to get that, and we'll give that a build in 5 months. All right. Whoops. Oh yeah, I forgot about these. Yeah, I gotta talk about these ones real quick. So when I was at the Second and Charles with my wife, I actually found these, which these were becoming really hard to find. And I paid a little bit more for them, but with the discount, it actually came back to like the original price that they should have been sold for. And that is the Series what season? Series 29 of the minifigures. So you're probably wondering to yourself, Dan, why did you buy these? I bought them for this minifigure alone, the Tahu costume player. And that is why a lot of people have been buying these, and that's why they've been really hard to find. So I was walking around Second and Charles, and sure enough, I found a mismatched box of these just kind of thrown about. And I was like, all right, there's a pretty high chance that Tahu's probably gone. But nonetheless, I'll use my app, scan these, and see if I can find him. And sure enough, I was able to find 2 of him. So I'll probably open up one, keep one sealed. You know, I might be on the lookout for more in the future, but he's really the only person that I'm looking for. And I just really hope we get more of these. Like, if we could get a whole Bionicle minifigure line, that would be amazing. Like, there's nothing from a logistics standpoint that they need to do for that. Like, because they own that brand. Like, they own Bionicle because that was a Lego brand. So I don't know what's taking them so long. Like, clearly I think they're running out of ideas when it comes to some of these characters. So unless they're just going to sprinkle all the original Toa into like future lines just to make us have to wait and pay more in the long run. But anyways, got those for a good price. All right. Next thing I picked up, got Lego store down in Delaware, so no tax, which is great, is a Brickhead set. So got this one for Stranger Things Season 5, which I think I talked about earlier. I watched it with my wife back in January. This one's really cool. It comes with 11, Max, the Demogorgon, and Holly. So it's really funny. There's 2 4-packs that are out right now. The other one has all the boys from Stranger Things. So that one I gotta get at some point, but it's funny. I was like sitting there thinking about which one to get, and my wife was like, "Yeah, get this one." She's like, Holly looks pretty badass," and I'm like, "Yeah, you're right." So really excited to get this one a build. I think the Demogorgon here, different color than what they used in the original brickhead that I bought for Stranger Things like 4 years ago or something. Um, so really neat. Really looking forward to building those and adding those to the upside down set that I have. So really cool. I don't have the Creel house yet. Probably will never own it just because it's so expensive, but I have the first Stranger Things set they came out with, like the upside down cabin, and with like the two different, like you can flip it upside down and it has like the upside down world. So that was pretty cool. Next set I got, this was a creator set, and I think I mentioned this numerous times, but Lego Creator 3-in-1 is absolutely killing it recently. They're doing a really great job with their sets. Like I really like some of the like non-animal or like robot sets. Like they had like a telephone, a typewriter. I think I bought the record player one like a couple months ago. But this one really stood out to me just because of the platform it's on. It just looks really cool and dynamic, and I really think this is going to be a nice set to have in my collection, and that is the dolphin, the beautiful dolphins one. So yeah, don't intend on building anything besides that one. I mean, that wave is just so dope, and like the fact that it's all one platform where the dolphins sit on, I think it's a really cool, it just looks really cool. Like it's like I said, it's like Lego Creator 3-in-1, like when I was a kid, like they were very boring, very like repetitive, and now it just seems like they're doing such a great job, not only with the builds, but like with just the display value of some of these. So there's another one I want to get at some point that I think would go nice with my Kingfisher set, and that is like the Hummingbird set, which is like I think already on sale. So may end up getting that at some point, but for right now, this one is really cool. I really love that blue color too, like that teal blue color. I think it looks really cool mixed in with like that like mint blue color for the waves. So yeah, pick this up. I think this is still on sale, so if you're looking to get it, it's $10 off. It was originally going on sale for $50. It's on sale for $40, so I think that's a pretty good price for what you get here. And the last one, the creme de la creme of the haul I have here. This was my May 4th purchase this year, so I didn't buy the N1 Starfighter or any of the other stuff. I didn't even qualify for any of the like gift with purchases because I've already talked about that on this channel, but I've gotten burned in the past on those, and I am not spending that type of money ever again directly with Lego. So ended up getting this one because this set was on sale. It was 20% off. And then on top of that, it had the, I want to say it was double VIP points, but it may not have been. Regardless, I still got VIP points. And there was a Rakuten 15% cash back on this. So like overall, I want to say like total like savings, if you want to include like the cash back stuff, was probably around like $40 or like $35, which is a pretty insane amount of money. And that set is the C3PO. So wanted to get this because I obviously have the Chewbacca set, and these are obviously these two sets are both in scale with each other. So wanted to get that just so I have C3PO with Chewbacca. I've had Chewbacca for almost over a year and a half now, and I still have not built him just because I want to get a display case for him before I subject his brown color to dust, because obviously I'm paranoid about that because of how easily that color chips for some reason. So probably we'll be looking to see if I can get a case that fits both of these guys, just so I don't have to buy two cases. But yeah, C3PO, really dope. At this point, I don't know if I'm going to buy like the smaller R2-D2. I have the bigger ones. I don't see a need to buy the smaller one just to say I have it. So I'm just probably just going to have this one and that's it. But this is really cool. Comes with the, I'm pretty sure that's the dual molded leg, C3PO. Really cool that it's like a tan base plate. So like kind of showing like what he like, I'm assuming this is on Tatooine. Um, so yeah, really neat. I think this, overall, I think this set looks really nice. I think the head was as good as they were going to get it with C-3PO. It's kind of hard to get that exact, like, look there for his eyes, but nonetheless, I think this is a really cool build, and I'm really excited to build this. So yeah, so glad I finally got a chance to show it on a haul video so that I can actually build it. But yeah, anyways, that is my Lego haul. So 10 minutes later, we're at the end here, so let's go ahead and get into the outro for this video. All right, guys, so thank you so much for watching and tuning into this haul. This one may be the longest, who knows, probably not, but anyways, yeah, a lot of good stuff. Like I said, this has probably been about over 2 months of collecting, so hoping to get this one pumped out a little bit sooner after the last one I've made. It's just been really hectic with work and just other personal things going on. Nothing bad, obviously, but just a lot of things going on that haven't been able to sit down and edit the video. And most days I'm kind of not feeling like I'm editing it, so there's that too. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this haul, and I will see you on the flip side. Peace.